I want to tell you all a story. This was a real interaction I had with a player. It's only been a few days since the game's come out, and safe to say, I've been playing it day in and day out. I maybe feel a little confident in my abilities. I've even managed to rack up a 27 win streak, but you know what they say about pride. After he killed me once, I knew I wasn't going to win. He had the Cascade, the first weapon you ever learn in the game, and arguably the best weapon in the meta. The Monarch was too slow, too sluggish. He parried every single shot, and even before that, he was always quicker on the draw, and I was just going to ignore this loss, but it was something he said to me that I would never forget. Your movement is good, but the Monarch is holding you back. He then proceeded to show me by shooting me one last time while soaring through the air. See? Monarchs aren't good for 1v1s. Keep it in battlegrounds. Switch to the Cascade. He was right, and as flashy as it is, against a good player, Monarch is an uphill battle. But I didn't care. And I said as much. I'll live and die by my friend. To be honest, I thought I was being a little corny, but his response was just so earnest. Then go. Be the best Monarch player. I told him, I'll remember this, and I did.
I'm about to fart in my mic, you keep talking, I swear, bro.
In REDLINER, the Monarch is the most expensive weapon. It's the de facto sniper rifle of this game, and it's my absolute favorite. Some people say it's a crutch, but that's only half the truth. This video serves as a collection of lessons I've learned while using the sniper, and I want to discuss that you too can have a wonderful journey with this weapon. This video already assumes you understand the basics of the game, as well as the basic mechanics of destabilization. If you don't, I highly recommend you watch my other video, which includes the tutorial for the game and my first experience ever playing. Now, what did I mean by an uphill battle? Well, we have to look at the core mechanics of REDLINER to understand why the Monarch underperforms in a lot of areas. For the sake of our hypothetical, let's assume that every player knows how to properly parry bullets. And here we run into our first problem. The Monarch has the longest draw time in the game. This might not seem like an issue, but it truly is for two key reasons. 1. The Monarch is an easy weapon to parry. With such a long wind-up time, it's impossible to truly surprise an enemy with a shot, given that they already understand how the Monarch works. The glint that the Monarch provides is large and obvious. Even if you manage to get a lucky shot on a good player the first time, they'll be looking out for it the rest of the match. 2. Every other weapon draws faster than it. The Cascade gets a free 60 damage, the Phoenix can get an insta-kill shot off, and the Siege has a wide range to take you out of aim. When you are punished for even pulling out the weapon, it can feel like you're simply, well, without a weapon. In the best case scenario, you'll be able to rack up a large amount of instability on your opponent if they parry it, but at the worst, you'll be the one taking permanent damage. The Monarch at this point is indeed a crutch for your very broken legs. While the other weapons can be used to pressure more frequently, the looming threat of a stray shot or forcing you to parry and gain passive instability, the Monarch must be used more carefully. Here is where your greatest weakness and your greatest strength lies. In a match against a skilled player with good reflexes, you must rely on the fundamentals of your swordplay and movement to win clashes and destabilize your opponent. You're being forced to master the ability to win exchanges and manage to push your opponent always on the back foot. Once you do, and you get that sweet destabilize, it's your aim versus their movement. Picture it in your head. Destabilization is your win condition. When you are destabilized against a Cascade, Phoenix, or Siege player, there are certain things you can do in order to avoid their bullets. Hiding behind cover, launching into the air, or gaining distance can prevent a buildup of damage. Not against Monarch, because a Monarch doesn't need to worry about things like cover. Of course, understand that it is your opponent's job to do everything in their power to make themselves as hard to hit as possible. This is where I have a tip for you. Delay your shot. The first instinct someone may have to avoid your bullet is to immediately grapple up towards the roof, or to get as far away as possible. Watch your enemy. Pretend you're them. See what they're doing to avoid you. See if you can try to predict where they'll be first. You need to know these two major things in order to consistently break your enemy's guard. First, you need to master clashes. You may already know that when your sword swings and clashes against another blade, you'll clash and both gain instability. You may not know that you can partially tell who got the worst out of the trade by paying attention to how much instability you gain. If you gain way too much in a trade, you haven't gone fast enough. If you gain very little, you were faster. There's many different ways to gain speed. The easiest way without doing anything is to walk forward and slide for an instant 90 units of speed. You may also know that turning around and grappling the ground will slingshot you forward. Each grapple adds more and more speed and can amplify your speed very fast. Do be aware though that after a grapple you'll lose out on speed after a second, so you should try to hit maximum speed mid-grapple during your clash. One of the absolute best ways to gain speed is something called a backdash grapple, or BDG. Dash backwards while in the air and grapple at a semi-downward angle to immediately gain a huge burst in speed. Done right, you can get up to 130 to 140 units of speed instantly. This is one of the best ways you can win clashes. Another way to gain speed is something called a slam cancel, or slam slide. Once you're a good distance from the air, you'll see your reticle turn yellow. When grappling to the ground, you'll kill all momentum and perform a slam. This slam does great instability, but also removes your momentum. If you slam towards the ground and instead slide at the very last second, you'll perform a slam cancel and gain a consistent 125 units of speed. Combining this with a slingshot and you can rack up some pretty fast speed, but may not be as fast as a BDG in a quick pinch. In a fight, you should be using the BDG, but when you're simply trying to gain speed, you should be using a slam cancel. Given that the opponent is clashing against you, and you're always making sure to be moving as fast as possible, you should be winning out on every single one of your trades. Destabilize and aim true. The second thing you're going to need to know to win is to master parries. Of course, not everybody in the game wants to trade clashes forever, and this is where you're going to need to learn how to be unpredictable. Getting parried gives you a sizable amount of instability, and you can even sneak in an extra hit right after a parry as well. Parrying punishes you for being predictable, but parrying also punishes both ways. If you miss a parry, you gain instability. Even worse, miss too many parries and you'll be parry fatigued. As a Monarch player, pay attention to how often they're parrying. If you've got a gut feeling that they're parry fatigued, you could get a shot off, given that they don't have the game sense to shoot you outright. There's many ways to be unpredictable in this game, but here's a few. When doing a backdash grapple or a slingshot, immediately strafe into a different direction. This can bait out a parry and earn yourself some free instability while still continuing your speed. One of the biggest advice I can give is to not panic. The moment you panic and start swinging wildly, or parry too often, is the moment you're going to be exploited and killed. The topic of aim is brought up when it comes to the Monarch, but the hitbox is deceivingly large. As long as you're aiming fairly close enough to where they are, you're gonna get the hit. The problem with the Monarch is just how fast you can move in this game. Once you destabilize an enemy, as long as they aren't going for a slam directly on top of you, you should stop moving and start aiming. Sometimes, you should also keep in mind how much instability your sniper adds even on a parry. Your opponent's instability will rise to a nearly 75% full, so add on the pressure, even if they parry it. You only do 140 damage, so even on full health, you won't be insta-killing people. But being reduced to 10 leaves a margin of no room for error. My best tip is to relax. Don't overthink it. Just breathe and move through reflex. Change your keybind for the gun from Q to your middle mouse button. This allows you to take aim without having to press Q with your other finger. Remember that your bullet is a hit scan, so don't worry about leading your shots or always flicking onto your target. If you got a lock on them early, try to just track them as best you can. Another tip that I have that a lot of professional FPS players have is to actually lower your sensitivity. This gives you more room for micro movements when you're aiming. Of course, it means you're going to need a bigger surface area to aim, but if you have the space, you should be utilizing it. Investing in a lightweight mouse or even trying to aim more with your arm than your wrist also can help. When you're winning every single clash, hitting every single parry, and destabilizing every single time. There's truly nothing more satisfying.
AIZO 渦巻いて大東京競争レダーで回れ回れ時代の生き恥にずぶ濡れでAIZO を食らってマイロ大そなさまで離れ離れてしまいよさらばまた会いましょうAIZO 抱き合って最高潮よいつだって騙し騙しでいいの大丈夫なんて気にしないよAIZO にもがいて外交AIZOに巻いてバンブーボンのようでしまいよさらばまた会いましょうたださばかれて全部待ってAIZOの見てここを連れ出してたださばかれて今日も釣れないでAIZOの見て心むき出して
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie to you at this point and say that this might be the last video on REDLINER because I'm even thinking about making guides and montages on the different weapons, but at the end of the day, I always find myself coming back to the monarch. If you're looking for gameplay to supplement all of these tips, I highly suggest watching my other video, which is just 10 straight minutes of just monarch gameplay. I do wish the cost of it got lowered because it's a pretty hefty price. I'm not gonna lie, I spent the $5 needed to get the crimson I needed to buy the weapon. So, at this point, money well spent.